When I was little, my favorite show was a cheap old kids program called Mr. Smile's Fun Corner. Everyone said it was harmless, cheap sets, silly puppets, bad jokes. But even back then, something about it always made my chest feel tight. Maybe it was the puppets' faces. They were big hand puppets with round plastic eyes that reflected the studio lights like tiny mirrors. But I watched it every afternoon anyway. Routine, comfort, predictable. At least, it used to be predictable. I remember the exact moment everything changed. Mr. Smiles was doing his usual intro dance, twirling and bouncing around his colorful cardboard set. Then, mid-spin, he stopped. His head swiveled toward the camera, fast, too fast, like the joint had no resistance. He leaned forward, closer, closer, until his painted grin filled most of the screen. "Hello, you," he said it softly. Not in his sing-song tone, but in a low, deliberate whisper. I froze. He'd never broken character before, never said anything that felt directed. Then one of the puppets leaned into frame alongside him. Its shiny eyes stared straight at me. A single plastic eyelid twitched. Mr. Smiles lowered his voice again. "Don't tell anyone we talked today." My entire body went cold. The next afternoon, I tried to avoid the show, turned the TV off and went to my room. But 10 minutes later, I heard that familiar theme music echoing down the hallway. The TV was on, even though it was unplugged. Mr. Smiles stood absolutely still in the center of the screen, not dancing, not talking, just watching. His head tilted slightly to one side, as if listening for something behind the glass. I reached for the remote, and the screen flickered violently. A white flash filled the room, then darkness. When the picture returned, the set behind him was different. Darker, like the bright cardboard props had been stripped away, revealing bare walls and shadow. Mr. Smiles whispered, "Come back tomorrow. You're my favorite." For the next week, the episodes were wrong. The puppets' movements were delayed. Sometimes their mouths moved after the words, sometimes before, sometimes not at all. One day, Mr. Smiles walked off camera during a song. The camera followed him, not smoothly but in sudden jerky pans, into a corner of the set I'd never seen before. The lighting was dimmer there. The walls looked damp, almost like stone. A puppet sat slumped in the corner, strings tangled, its mouth stuck open unnaturally wide. Mr. Smiles knelt beside it and whispered, "You're not needed anymore, we have him now." The puppet's head twitched. The episode cut to black. The night everything escalated, I woke to a faint tapping. Tap, tap, tap. I sat up in bed. My room was pitch black, except for a faint glow from the TV screen. It was on. Again. Mr. Smiles wasn't on the set anymore. He was in a room I didn't recognize. Bare wooden walls, a single swinging light bulb overhead. Dust swirling in the beam. He sat in a child-sized chair directly in front of the camera. Slumped, breathing slow. Behind him, something moved in the dark, a long shape, dragging itself along the floor. The puppets, maybe, but stretched. Wrong. Mr. Smiles slowly lifted his head. One eye looked off in the wrong direction. He whispered, "It's time to practice what we learned." I tried to scream for my parents. Nothing came out. His painted smile began to peel at the corners, like the makeup was cracking. Then he said, "Turn around." I didn't. I couldn't. But something behind me breathed in. A long, shaky inhale. Warm air brushed the back of my neck. I bolted out of the room screaming. My dad found me shaking in the hallway. When he walked into my room, the TV was off. Silent, cold, completely unplugged. We threw the TV into the dumpster the next morning. But yesterday, a lifetime later, I was sorting boxes at my parents' old house and found something wedged behind a stack of board games, a small wooden puppet. Its eyes glossy, its painted smile cracked. Around its wrist was a paper tag that read, "Property of Fun Corner, backup host." When I lifted it, its mouth opened slowly, not mechanically, but like something inside had shifted. And with a faint, scratchy voice, it whispered, "You never finished your lessons."
I got sick a lot as a kid. One winter, I was stuck at home for most of a week, too groggy to do anything but lie on the couch with a blanket over me. That's when I found Jolly J and Friends. It wasn't a cartoon. It wasn't a puppet show. It was something in between. A grown man in bright suspenders surrounded by animal mascots that always seemed one size too large for the set. Harmless enough. Until it wasn't. The first day I watched it, Jolly J looked straight at the camera and said, "Looks like you're feeling a little down today. That's okay, I'll keep you company." My head snapped up. My parents were at work. No one else was home. I muted the TV. He kept talking. "Don't worry, we'll have fun." I turned the TV off. It turned itself back on. This time Jay was sitting cross-legged on the floor, smiling gently. "Don't be scared, I like when you watch." My heart thudded once, loudly. I unplugged the TV. It stayed on. The next day, things escalated. The intro song didn't play. Instead, the screen showed the mascot standing in a semicircle facing the camera, not moving, not blinking. Their masked faces were tilted slightly downward, as if studying me through the screen. Jay entered the frame slowly. His voice was softer, measured. "We're glad you're still here." I backed away from the TV. One mascot, the rabbit, turned its head so sharply I heard the speakers crackle. "Don't go anywhere," Jay murmured. My throat tightened. I ran upstairs. 5 minutes later, the TV turned on again. I wasn't even in the same room, but I heard Jay humming from downstairs. A soft, low tune, like he was calling me back. The next morning, the show started with Jay holding a stack of Polaroid photos, my photos from inside my house, taken from angles that made my stomach twist. He held one up. It was a picture of me sleeping on the couch. "We took this last night. You looked peaceful." I froze. "Want to see the others?" I reached forward and shut the power. The screen stayed black. Then something spoke softly through the speaker. "Come back." That night is when I realized the show wasn't meant to entertain. It was meant to observe. Something woke me. A soft thump from downstairs. I sat up in bed, heart racing. Then I heard it. Giggles. The mascots. Not pre-recorded laughter. Real creaking, muffled giggles, like something inside a costume was struggling to breathe. I crept to my bedroom doorway and peeked into the living room. The TV was on. Jolly J stood alone, but behind him, the shadow of one mascot stretched across the wall. A long, tall shape, far bigger than the suit should have allowed. Jay whispered, "Almost time to meet." I slammed my bedroom door. On the final day, the show started differently. The set was dark. Only one spotlight glowed, illuminating Jay's face. He looked exhausted, eyes puffy, smile trembling. "It's my last episode," he whispered. The camera panned backward. The mascots were gone. So was the set. Jay stood in a large, empty space, concrete floor, black walls extending into nowhere. "Thank you for watching," he said softly. He reached forward, not toward the camera, toward me. His hand pressed against the inside of the screen, flesh distorting against the glass. A deep groaning sound filled the room, like the TV was straining to hold something back. Jay whispered, "Let me out." The screen flickered violently. For 1 second, just one, I saw a real face behind Jay's mask. A gaunt, sunken expression. Eyes pleading, mouth torn in a silent scream. Then the screen burst into static, and the TV shut down permanently. I didn't touch that room for years. But last week, when I moved out of my childhood home, I found something behind the entertainment center, a Polaroid. The same kind Jay had shown me. It was me sleeping on the couch, taken last night.
I bought a used CRT television at a yard sale. I love retro tech, and the old guy selling it said it still had channels left in it. I assumed he meant it still tuned analog signals. He didn't. That night, after plugging it in, the screen flickered to life and showed a children's program I'd never heard of. No intro, no credits, just the title, Channel Zero Presents. Friends Forever. 3 puppets sat on wooden stools. Their designs were simple, yarn hair, cloth faces, but their eyes, too real, too alert, too glossy like wet marbles. One leaned forward. "Been waiting to meet you." I jerked back so hard I hit the wall. The puppets giggled softly, not children's giggles, more like strained breaths forced through cloth. I tried changing channels. Every station showed the same thing. Channel 0, Channel 0, Channel 0. Each one slightly different angles of the same unsettling playroom. I unplugged the TV. It kept playing. One puppet climbed off its stool. Its stitched legs bent awkwardly as it walked closer to the camera. "You moved," it said in a flat tone. The screen dimmed. Only its face remained lit. A warped smile sewn crookedly across the fabric. "Want to follow us?" I threw a blanket over the TV and left the room shaking. Later that night, I heard knocking. Not on my door. On the TV screen. Muffled thumps, a rustling sound, and faint voices. "Let us in." It's rude to ignore guests. We're so close now. The knocking grew louder, rhythmic, insistent, like something pounding from inside the screen. Then came the scraping. Long, dragging scratches across the glass. I didn't sleep. The next evening, the TV switched itself on again. This time, the camera wasn't in the playroom. It was in a narrow hallway I didn't recognize. Dim light, peeling yellow wallpaper, a gentle humming that made my teeth vibrate. The puppets weren't puppets anymore. Their faces drooped, yarn hair hanging in clumps. They glided instead of walked. They stopped halfway down the hall. All 3 swung their heads slowly toward the camera. "We found a new place to play," one said. The camera turned, and I recognized the hallway. It was mine. I raced downstairs. The TV screen showed the angle from my staircase, the lens jerking forward as if someone was rushing up the steps. I heard footsteps behind me, not heavy ones, soft, fabric brushing the carpet. I turned off the TV, unplugged it, flipped the breaker. Still, the screen began to glow faintly. On the black surface, a sentence appeared in white text. "We are already here." I backed up until my spine hit the wall. Then one puppet face pressed against the other side of the screen, cloth flattening, smile stretching unnaturally wide. "Open the door." The screen cracked. A small tear formed in the glass, like fabric pushing through paper. I grabbed the TV and hurled it onto the concrete floor of the garage. It shattered. Everything went silent. I thought I was safe, until last night. When I walked into my bedroom and found the TV sitting upright on the floor, plugged in, screen glowing, even though I never brought it back inside. The words displayed. Episode 2, loading, please sit.